Hello again. Today I just want to talk about the importance of mental health and the impacts on it by organisations like child maintenance. And I've spoken a little bit about child maintenance already, and I've probably got a lot more to say about them. But I just want to talk about the long-term impact of having to deal with them and things to try and do to improve things. When I've found when dealing with child maintenance as the person who has to pay, it's just a constant uphill battle, constantly having to justify and prove yourself um, about everything, and they never believe anything. And I even found that when the first time I beat them in court, that even then they wouldn't do what they were supposed to do, and I had to get the courts involved further because they said they needed further clarification, even though it was glaringly obvious what they had to do. And even now, it's still not right. There's still a lot of a mess with that, and they've they're trying to hold me financially responsible for their cock-ups. That's a story for another time. But it's just the fact of how long it goes on for. It's the constant letters, the harassment. Every letter's intimidating and threatening. Threatening prison, threatening to take your passport away. To lose your home. It's just awful, absolutely awful, and there's no recompense for that for you either. There's no compensation. I've had to go on multiple tablets for my mental health. Um, been pushed to suicidal ideation by them, um, and just generally being mentally unwell. I'm not too bad most of the time, but especially whenever I get a phone call off and like my stress levels just go straight up now. It's awful, absolutely awful. But something that did help me get through that though was keeping fit. I've always been a fit person anyway. I've always been active. A lot of that comes even from a kid, but a lot of that was down to obviously being in the army and doing a lot of sports when I was in the army. But when I came out, I stopped doing sports for a while. Although I did go to the gym doing weights, not consistently, but enough to keep me ticking over. But yeah, when I was going through the worst of it with child maintenance, I was going to the gym nights a week, but doing martial arts, that is, Brazilian and Japanese jiu-jitsu. But unfortunately, it ended up getting that bad with the legal stuff that I had to even for 2 years now. I've not been because I was just drowning in not only debt from having to pay for all the legal fees, money which you can't claim back, by the way, because it's civil cases. Um, but also the stress of having to cope with writing these big letters for solicitors or for myself to go to court, and just dealing with it. It just became too much for me to deal with, and then trying to obviously manage my life and spend time with my 4 children as well. Um, but when you can, if and when you can, when you're coping with stressful things like that, absolutely go to the gym, because it is just a great way for you just to switch your brain off and focus. Because to whatever gym activity you're doing, whether it's tennis, weights, playing golf, gymnastics, you can't do that activity unless you're 100% focusing your mind with your body to do that activity, and it just gives you that respite from that stress that is getting you down at that time. And it's just that, really, it's just that little bit of advice of try if you can to get to the gym. I'm being really poor with myself and what I'm not doing at the moment, but again, I've got multiple reasons for that. Again, you could say excuses, a lot of people would, um, but they're not. They're never excuses when you're in a bad place. They are reasons for you at that time. I do hope to get myself back into the gym, but time will tell with that one. Um, but yeah, it's child maintenance, man. They're awful, terrible organisation to deal with. Um, Absolutely terrible. And like I say, I believe I've already said it in a previous video, but the worst part about them though is you can't complain to like the ombudsman or the complaints committee unless you've got a referral to complain to them about them, and that as well I think is just completely corrupt, and has just allowed them to get out of control. I'm not saying that all the people there are bad, but my experience, I've probably got about a 50-50 experience with the people there, between good and bad. I do believe there's a culture of hatred of people who have to pay. And I do believe, I do get the impression that they feel like you're just being a whiny little female dog, and they should just shut up and pay. I do believe that is a lot of it, and especially towards like myself being a heterosexual white male. I definitely do think that is factored in to the treatment that you get as well. I obviously cannot necessarily prove that, but that is just my gut feeling from my experience with them. I do think there is an incredibly bad workplace culture there against the quote unquote customers, as I believe they refer to people like me, which I think is also perverse, because customer implies that you've got a choice in the matter. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye.